Okay, let's see here. We got 4 people going. That's probably good enough for tonight. Sunday stream. Everybody's probably trying to get ready for Monday. We're gonna go ahead and hit a button. Okay, and everything seems to be running properly. Knox, can you see something? Can you say something? I can see if you're registering my equipment.
What up?
Okay, yeah, that works. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to this Interwebers interview. On tonight we have Knox Archive from the Knox Archive channel. That's redundant, but Knox, how you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. You can just call me Knox.
Very well. So, Knox, I got a handful of questions for you. Of course, it's an interview and whatnot. First off, this very generic question is, who are you, and why should people take note? I know why I take notice, but yeah.
I am a true crime YouTuber. I mostly do I try to do true crime in a way that is less about the perpetrator and more about the victims of true crime. And people should watch me because I am cringy as fuck.
I wouldn't say you're cringy as fuck, man. I mean, like there's some things I disagree with you on, and we can get into that a little bit later. But overall, I think you do a pretty bang up job. I mean, definitely for someone that's like, of your size. I mean,
I'm trying to actually grow.
Like you have a decent following. I think you're sitting at maybe like a little over 1,000 right now.
I know I'm past 1,200, but I don't know the exact number because I stopped following subscribers a while ago.
Okay.
But I think it's hang on, I can actually go look really quick because I am on YouTube. I am at 1,200 and at least over 90K.
That is very what's up.
But 1.29K.
So here's another question: is how did you get started on YouTube? Like, how did you get started, and why did you start?
Well, the first thing is, I started in YouTube because my wife came home one day. Because I have a bad back, I have lumbar spinal stenosis, so getting a regular job is like really hard to do. And so one day my wife came home and I had gotten bored, so I put a set of toy glasses on our cat, and she just looked at me like, you need something to do. You have a degree in filmmaking, why don't you just go onto YouTube? And so I've been slowly relearning how to do video editing and everything else. The reason why I've been starting, sorry, I forgot the second part of the question.
Pretty much how and why. That was the question.
Yeah. The how is I had an account with YouTube. I just changed the name to Knox Archive. Originally it was going to be Ghost Wolf or Ghost Owl. I can't remember which. But that name was taken by a bigger YouTuber, so I chose Knox Archive because it was easier, and plus I love Latin. At first I was going to do just kind of creepypastas, mysteries, and horror related stuff, but then I started getting more into true crime, and I noticed a lot of my true crime videos got bigger reactions, so I just kind of went into true crime and just left the other stuff alone.
That's probably it's probably what I imagined it would be like when it came starting out doing this sort of like content. Is that it came with a problem being oversaturated, but also being in a true crime sense, you have to go through a handful of situations like I noticed that you got approved, like your last video you set in for memberships, as well as having a Patreon and everything of that nature. Now, I follow a handful of true crime YouTubers myself, like Rob Gavigan and a handful of other ones. They talk about when they do the subject matter, they have to do a handful of tricks in order to actually stay monetizable, because the subject matter can be so grim. Do you have some issues with that? I noticed like you've taken a certain change in your content with like trying to edit out your swearing, or at least keep it to a minimum.
Yeah, the problem I have is I swear like a fucking sailor, and so I started scripting myself so that I wouldn't swear so much. And then it got to the point where I was starting to get demonetized for my amount of swearing, so I stopped swearing as much. But at the same time, I noticed that I was getting demonetized for going into too much detail with crimes. So I tried to edit that back as well. When I get my Patreon up and I get a good number of followers on Patreon and members, I'm actually going to go unedited and not care what YouTube thinks.
That's not a bad idea. I know a handful of people who have like it's kind of weird to like talk about. I guess actually it might be against terms of service to talk about this, but there like some people have like moved over to other streaming sites and other hosting sites like Odyssey and things of that nature for a more relaxed system. But the problem with that is they're not like, I don't know how their monetization would work so far as like that as a source of income. So it is a relatively good idea. Something that I've noticed that a handful of like people who do stuff on subject matter as a way to fool the system when it comes to like recognizable like speech patterns is that they will they'll still say like sexual assault or something of that nature or something like that would get you dinged, but they would edit it to where it'd be like either a deeper and slowed down or distorted to where bots can't pick it up as easily. Have you thought about doing anything like that?
I have, but I have to figure out how I'm doing it fully. It's stuff you got to learn. It's like how to because I'm using a freaking Filmora for my videos.
Really?
And they just switched how you make the videos. Everything is just mumbled now, or jumbled. And so what I ended up realizing is the things that I learned beforehand using Filmora is completely different now. So in order for me to distort the part of the track, I probably would have to do it in Adobe Audition, which I use when I record, because I have no idea how you would do it on Filmora.
Yeah,
So what I've been doing...
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
So what I have been doing is just cutting that part out and lowering the volume and just flashing the word on the screen.
Well, that's one way to do it. I mean, I didn't think of it that way. Because I want to get back into doing videos myself. Like the videos that are on this channel, the ones that aren't archived to like rogue shit, I've like the shorts and whatnot. I made those in like a week's time, or like hell within like a day's time of like current events. But right now, current events are so either scattered far between or nobody's into them. It doesn't really matter. So I've kind of like just put that on hold entirely as well, and just devoted more time into trying to get material done for the streams and whatnot. But the software I've been trying to use is Magic Movie Studio freaking 2023. It's been fun trying to figure that one out.
Well, I can't remember how much it is, but I know Filmora is relatively cheap. I think it's under $100 for a year.
Oh, but this software I actually bought like straight out. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it would have been like a lot more expensive, but I got it on a Black Friday sale and got another discount for having a older version I purchased like years ago. So that was really incredibly lucky, and so far I've really enjoyed using it. The chroma key works really nice on it. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I just like using it. But we'll get back on track. Let's see here. I have a bunch of stuff written down. So we talked about a little bit what motivated you to follow this sort of thing, more in the lines of your desire to go with true crime, but focusing more on the not necessarily the names of the perpetrators, but the names of the victims, the faces, the people that shouldn't be forgotten, the people who should have monuments. in remembrance. Now, with that, has there been any topic or historical event that you're incredibly passionate about, and in a way, to it's something that sticks in the back of your mind?
Does it have to be true crime?
No, it could be any. I wrote down any historical event that you keep it's always there.
I am really into World War II and the Civil War.
Oh hell yeah!
And I follow, and World War One I've come to appreciate too. I've always been a really big fan of history, and those are the two battles or wars that I tend to gravitate towards when it comes to reading. Mostly because of the horrors of the Holocaust, but and the bravery of the men and women who fought in the Civil War. Like, for instance, did you know that hot air balloons were used during the Civil War?
Yes. Reconnaissance.
Freaking awesome. And yeah. If I remember right, there were, even though they were using muzzle loaders, there was repeating rifles in a lot of different Civil War battles.
Yeah, I live down here in the South. I don't know where exactly you live. I'm not gonna ask unless you want to tell anyone. But yeah, I've been to a handful of reenactments, and God, they take that shit seriously.
I can tell you because it's a big state. I live in New York.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we're in the same time zone. We're just I'm south and you're north. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So, is there a battle in those two time periods that you like to think of, or those time periods that you like to think of, more on lines of a concentrated standpoint for active heroism?
Sorry, I just burped.
It's okay.
I really, really love Gettysburg because, and a lot of people are like, well, duh, that's the obvious answer. But the reason why is a lot of people don't realize that if the Union Army fell in Gettysburg, the Confederate Army was going to march on Washington. It was literally the last stand for the Union Army. So the men and women who fought those 3 days on both sides, not just on the Union side, was one of the most heavy fighting, but at the same time was the most passionate, and there's a lot of people who sacrificed their lives that day.
Now,
when it comes to...
No, go ahead, sorry. I thought something.
When it comes to World War II, the one battle that comes to mind for me is the Battle of the Bulge. Because, again, it was a last stand. The Nazi Germany's had one last chance to push back the Allied army. And they completely failed. They came close because the reason why the Battle of the Bulge is called that is because there was a bulge in the line. One of the part of the line actually was going to fall. But then they could not do anything besides get pushed right back.
That's... Have you ever thought about doing, historical content?
I did, and I have done some historical content on my channel, mostly World War I when it comes to the Attack of the Dead Men.
Oh, yeah.
And the Bismarck. I know they're both Sabaton songs, but I love those two topics.
The May of 1941. Yeah. Sorry, I went into a different spot. This situation mindset. Back on track. Hang on a minute. This is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question I had earlier was when was the last shot fired for Civil War in your mind? Was it last shot fired at the last battle, or was it John Wilkes Booth? Was that the last shot of the Civil War?
Neither. They were still fighting when it comes to the Civil War up until I think it was 1868. There were still places that were fighting the Civil War.
Because they had no way. They had no way of telling everybody, "Hey, it's over." Pockets kept fighting.
Yeah.
And there was a large portion of like Northern cavalry having to go through and stamp out pockets and it's getting them to sign allegiance back over to the Union. Some of them didn't. Some of them went to South America.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the ones that went to South America either came back, became outlaws, or just settled in South America and became farmers.
Fun time had for all. Let's see here. I got more questions that are actually fun. Okay, so you went over cryptics like last year, like around Halloween. Now,
yeah,
that's where this little here goes. I'm actually the Woozlebug. I don't know if you know that, but I'm the Woozlebug.
Oh yeah, I remember that joke.
Who's joking?
Bug.
Who's joking? I fly around and scare people.
I remember you put that joke on the video.
I had fun. I had fun flying around scaring people, tearing roofs off cars and shit. But with that, did you have a favorite cryptid? Like, it doesn't have to be from necessarily that string for that month, but in general.
I've always been fond of alien big cats because they're the most realistic.
Like the ones that are like out of place for like no apparent reason.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to do that one, is to talk about how there's a bunch of different sightings of like tigers and panthers and lions and other things I didn't even get a chance to talk about in that video that have been found in places they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, I commented about the beast of Bladenboro that's down here in the state that I'm in.
Yeah, I was gonna look into that one for a short because I'm only doing 3 videos a month now, and I wanted to do something for that 1 week, so I figured I would do shorts for that 1 week. And I'm trying to find topics to do shorts on. I might actually do that and try to see if I can summarize it into a short video and just have people, if they're interested in it, go look into it and come up with their own thoughts on it.
There is a festival held in Bladenboro for this thing. They call it Beast Fest.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, me and my wife were talking about like heading up there and seeing if we couldn't see it at some point in time. You know, like life gets in the way. Sometimes you can't get everything you want, but it would be definitely interesting to see. For North Carolina, there's no shortage of strange shit that's like going all over the place. Like there are so many places you can go. Hell, Wendigoon went to had a video where like a long ass video where he went to I can't forget the name of the place, but it was somewhere in the mountains in the Appalachian Mountains, and it was about some strange lights that keep appearing at certain points in time, like electrical lights, like plasma lights.
Actually, kind of cool. I do have a story of North Carolina.
Go ahead.
I spent a whole entire summer in North Carolina.
Is that it?
In Camp Lejeune, because my brother was a Marine. When I was 14 years old, I went and spent a summer with him, and I spent the whole entire time reading. And I was told by him and a couple of other people that were local around the area, and I don't know if it's true, if they were just trying to scare a Yankee, don't go near the river, there's alligators.
Yeah, there are.
Okay, I just thought that they were just trying to scare me. Just like my brother drove us down this road, he goes, you know, if you drive down this road at the right time, they shoot ordnances across the road.
That one's a little bit far-fetched, but having said that, if you look into like Camp Lejeune and like in any other like the military installations around like Craven and Havelock County, it is there's a lot to be said about that, so far as like not having clean drinkable water and excessive build up of mold in the barracks. It's something. I'll tell you that it is something. But yeah, so far as like there being like gigantic gators, if you were around any sort of military installation, and there's a possible that runoff from like garbage, especially any garbage that comes off from like a military base that has food in it, the wildlife will become incredibly bulky around it.
Gotta protect the environment some more down there.
They adapt. There's a story that somebody was saying when they were in a base in Nevada. Near Mojave, and they noticed that like the wildlife itself was just built different than everything else. Like some things like the birds, they just fly away if you go towards like pigeons or whatever, or seagulls or anything else. Like if you try to interact with them, they'll just like fly away. No, these would actually try you. Like if you start trying to walk up on them, they'll try you because they're that so assured in their bulk.
Like, fuck around with me and find out.
Pretty much. So that's always fun. There's also a set of mysterious lights that happen around a train track. It's rumored that it's a train conductor looking for his head.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one story. I think I can't remember where I heard that story from.
But that's always fun when you live in a freaking place that's just completely and utterly haunted with random ass bullshit. Like I went driving in the back roads, like just behind my house, like for a while. I don't know why. Something told me to just keep driving. I went on some hunting paths, which is funny, driving around a freaking like beat up old Dodge Dart, going down roads. Like if I get stuck, I'm fucked. But I drove around and I found a somewhat abandoned grave site with like weeds and grass growing up all around it. It's in the middle of this piece of farmland, and I took a picture and I went to my dad like, Dad, what's this? And it was like, oh, that's a burial site for someone. And I was like, yeah, but who? I was like, I don't know. Our extended family cleared out all the woods back here. Like when we first came over, I'm like, huh? It was like, so what you're saying is all of it should belong to me? And it was like, no, not really, but maybe. So love that tangent. That was kind of funny just to hear all that and then hear about the family history of how everything got halved until it didn't matter anymore and they just gave it all to one person, being the state. But that was always fun.
Finding a burial ground is kind of one of those moments you're just like, where's my sage?
Nah, there's a lot of things that are like that around, especially around where I'm at, but there's a lot of hollow ground around here too. Like there's not even like a good walk away from that was a synagogue I didn't even know was there. I'm like, it's like a random like synagogue, just like an old fashioned church, just like a small building with a little playground in the back. And I was like, I did not know that I could find anything just by just driving around randomly. But I found it. I thought that was neat. Okay, so next question is here. Okay, the first time that we talked, trying to get this like scheduled last year, at the end of last year, you had said that you had your schedule is pretty much dead set packed. Like you have a really good, decent work ethic in order to get stuff grind out your videos. Would you like to tell anyone on how like what's your schedule so far as how you go about start to finish to like grind out a video and your time framing?
I normally take about 3 days to research a topic, 1 day to write, and then the next day I normally record. And usually after I record, I will do the intro for the video so I have something down before I go to bed, or else my brain will not shut up. And then spend the rest of the day, the next day, working on the video. Sometimes it takes 8 hours, sometimes it takes a full day. And then I upload it, and I usually have a day and a half before I have to do other things for it, like put subtitles in it so people from different countries or the hearing impaired can actually see what I'm saying. So I do all that. I have a actual Word document that has my entire schedule on it, and it goes from week to week. I don't put the date anymore because sometimes it comes out Saturday, sometimes it comes out Sunday. It depends on how big the project is. I try to focus it sometime during the weekend.
So you don't have like set dates for like things, but you have a consistent grind set that that you adhere to. Now, with as rigid as that is, are you ever worried that you might not be giving like one video or one project enough time?
Oh, I've always thought that. Every video I do, I always think, did I find all the information? Did I do all this? But I try to, but the best advice I got was actually from Rogue. Be as consistent as possible with everything from your upload schedule to what you're doing, for the topics. So I always go back and think I probably forgot something, but I try to move on to the next thing. And there have been projects where I'm like, okay, I'm going to need an extra week just to research it. I had to do that with the Oklahoma City bombing stuff and Susan Cox Powell. In fact, for the Oklahoma City bombing, I actually took an entire month off.
Yeah, I think I noticed that. I was wondering where you had been. I have this weird habit. Whenever I wonder where a YouTuber went, I'm like, I haven't heard from them in a long time. And then literally after I say that out loud, like an hour or a day later, I check my phone and they have something new uploaded, and I'm like, oh, there they are. It happens consistently with JonTron. Is he like?
Yeah, JonTron's like so inconsistent.
Yeah, I get that he probably has everything to do with production value. Because it would be so easy to just fall into the Mr. Beast thing and just pump out, film shit, pump it out, and just have it out there with like the most minimalist amount of editing that you can get from like a person who's fresh off working for TLC situation. But I don't know.
There's a middle ground. You don't want to do too little for a video, but you don't want to do too much. You don't want the screen to have so many flashing things going on at the same time as you talking, especially if you want to get information out there. There is a middle ground. And I've noticed there's a lot of YouTubers, especially in the commentary community, that needs to learn that middle ground.
Yeah, I don't have a all I've been doing is streams, so everything I do is just like half-assed thrown together, it feels like. And I've been wanting to do other things, but the things that I really want to do, I don't think it's going to get any traction to the proper thing. And be honest with you, I've been thinking really consistently lately about is this the what I want to spend my time on, and if so, how can I get more out of it situation? Because for me, this is not a career, this is a hobby. Like, this whole entire thing was somebody else's idea that they didn't have time to do it. And so I said I'd help them. But their time became more limited. And I just kept working and kept working and kept working until we got here.
And you guys are growing. I've noticed that. And I would hope that you guys continue to grow. I hope you guys get way over the subscribers that I have.
We'll see within time. Like, what I'm really trying to do is, especially since this is a project channel, it's not just me doing it, it's also Mima, and I want to get like a handful of other people on board to like help make content, so therefore it's more of a collaborative effort. But with anything working with people, like when it's just you, the only person that you have to worry about is yourself and everybody under you. But when it's a partnership and things are stacked equally, it's a shared burden. But if someone falls behind, you have to be willing to pick up the slack. Or if someone makes a mistake, you
Yeah.
have to be willing to help them out and help them fix it. And
It's kind of like when I do my collabs with people. What I do with collabs is I ask the person a month in advance, and then I don't bug them until probably when it's really close to when we're going to be doing the collab, like a couple of weeks before, so they have enough time to prepare. And that just comes from the amount of group projects I had to do in college. And so with a larger group, like with what you were saying, I think the easiest thing to do is if there's somebody that is forgot to do something or something and you pick up the slack, it just shows that you have a group effort. And it's a good thing.
yeah. It's
Sorry, my brain is off today.
I mean, it's Sunday. It's our last day of rest for people who, like, you know, they work a 9 to 5, have to get back to it. I got to get back to it. And this entire week has not been a restful week. This last 2 days has not been a restful day. I had dishwasher issues. I got jerked around out of like 2 counties, 2 different hardware stores, and then having to put a new one in. Got tricked into getting a credit card. Fun times. But that's enough of me personally whining. Now I've when it comes to characterization for being a PNG tuber like ourselves, or like that, there's always a question of choice of avatar. And with yours, when I looked on your Discord, I noticed you had a fan art, and your character, Nox, has a crystalline rapier and familiar and a book. Now, you want to help break down your Sona a little bit?
Okay. First thing I'm going to point out is, because I get asked this way too much to the point where I just don't care if people think this or not. No, I'm not a furry in real life. But I don't care if people call me that because there's no use in changing people's mind. I have a love of Disney. And one of my favorite movies from Disney was Robin Hood. And one of my favorite series was Darkwing Duck. So I noticed a lot of PNG tubers were using humans. And I wanted to go the opposite and decided to use an anthropomorphic gray fox. The owl came about because originally my screen name was Ghost Owl, because I have a really big love of owls. And so the owl's name is Ghost. It's a female owl, and it's a familiar. The book is because I read too much. I literally don't remember the last time I sat down and watched television. I don't even remember the last time I sat down and played a video game. Most of my time, I'm either reading, talking to people on Discord, working on stuff, or spending time with my wife. So the rapier is supposed to be like a spiritual rapier thing, like soul thing, because me and Kat, my artist, decided to jokingly say that he is more inspired by undead and ghosts and stuff like that. So it's more of a darker thing and it's more spiritual thing. So the joke is, because I do streams with a person who goes by the name Madam Hellfire, who's in the chat.
Yeah,
She is more the Demon Queen, so she's Kane, I'm the Undertaker.
That's cool. Is it good to have have someone to work off of when it comes to situations of that that magnitude? Like, we're all over the place over here. I mean, we got a goblin, we got a sentient sock, we got a southern grandma. So yeah,
we don't need southern grandmas.
We don't quite understand where we're going with this. No, here's the fun part. So Mima, her portrayal is of a like the character is a southern grandma, but in real life, she's the exact opposite.
I think I know Mima. If I remember right, she was in my server at one point. I think she left. I know she's in a server that I'm also in with our friend Z Bunny. So it's kind of cool that she went with it.
She wanted to be on tonight, but due to the late hour, her work schedule won't allow it.
Understandable.
But she's been definitely fun to work with. She's definitely been a certain person that has definitely helped me out in more ways than just trying to get stuff done. So I have to give appreciation where it's due. So it's good to have good people
interactions
around.
with her. Yeah, my interactions with her have always been positive.
It's hard to have a negative interaction with her for the most part. So what was I got a handful of more questionronis here. Let's see here. Oh wait, here's one that's off the top of my head. So you said, so we obviously know each other situational is because you're a fan of Rogue Internet Man. Obviously, this was started a little more as like a fan channel, I guess. We got a little piece of art in the corner here of the crucifying asterisk that was based on my baby photo, my Sona.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, how did you find Rogue?
I actually don't remember. I think it was a Chris Chan thing, but because I was researching at the time, I think it was just after I started doing videos. Somebody kept telling me that I should cover Chris Chan sometime, and I stupidly said, okay, and then I looked up things, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. Everyone else is. And then I noticed Rogue, and Rogue kind of has the same attitude towards Chris Chan that I do.
It's just... It's a train wreck. It's a train wreck in slow mo. And you go through the story of it. It's a train wreck in slow motion, and by that, it's very good analogy. So you have the engine. The engine makes contact with something, and then each subsequent car that crashes into the next is like another arc.
Yeah, and the fun thing is about Chris Chan, he is the only person that gets bullied that you want to feel sorry for, but then he does something that just makes you just go, yeah, I don't feel sorry for him.
Unlike, are you familiar with Cyrax?
No.
You don't want to be familiar with Cyrax. You will literally start like foaming at the mouth if you get familiar with Cyrax. But
I stopped following locales after I learned what Nick Bait was.
Who?
Nick Bait.
I'm not familiar.
Let's just say you don't want to know. You trust me, you don't want to know.
Okay. One thing I will say about
Picture
Cyrax...
a grosser version of...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, picture a grosser version of Chris Chan.
How is that? Well, I know that's possible, but... Willingly?
Yeah, I don't really want to go in. I don't really want to go into it. I'll just say that he is an admitted pedophile.
Uh-huh.
He's in jail now.
Good.
In prison for crimes against his own sister.
Oh.
And he, for some reason, wants to be Canadian. And so he says a boot and writes a boot instead of saying about. I followed him because he went to prison, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to, because he also has a poop fetish. So I apologize for destroying your brain cells.
No. There's not that many left. I'm nothing but eyes over here. All I can do is watch and
shadow.
Horror. I can just watch in horror from all directions. It's like like it's like Vision but in stereo.
Yeah.
Shit.
And to answer Horror and Hellfire, when I was talking about Christian, yeah, against his mom, he did horrible things.
Yeah, like if you ever feel so inclined to look into Cyrax, I'll get since you gave me the rundown of that dude, I'll get a rundown on this dude. Okay, he's like a 32-year-old goblin-esque creature that has like messed up teeth, balding, scabbing on the head real bad, is a complete and total narcissist, has beat his elderly grandma once before, has sexually assaulted a blind kid, and confronted him on stream saying, "No, you did that to me," and it just like spirals downward there. He keeps his family up at night doing streaming, when the streaming is just him like going on to other people's stuff that's like his trolls, attempting to troll them, and he just like completely and utterly shows his ass to the entire of the world. Like one of his like freakouts is like he said, if you say one more thing I don't like, I'm gonna show my cock on your stream and get you banned.
Wow.
And like anytime he insults someone, anytime he says an insult towards somebody, it's something that he's probably heard or thought about himself. Because whenever he describes somebody, he's describing himself.
I thought Acerthorn was bad.
God, Acerthorn's bad, but Acerthorn's competent enough to actually file motions in court. This guy threatens people to a large extent or talk shit, and then it gets even worse. When someone actually called him out on his bullshit and went to his house to like have a word with him and all that, he hid and sent his grandma out to tell him to go away.
Yeah, see my avatar, my sprite that's up. That's my reaction. Like what?
Yeah, if you ever like, it's the one thing that's come great from it though is he's a self-proclaimed music artist, and by that he steals beats and has been called out for it. And the trolls have wanted to call him out so bad, they paid for a shout out from Shag's Too Dope the Juggalo to basically call him out.
God, I miss actually listening to ICP sometimes.
Yeah, and like some of the diss tracks that have come from some of his trolls are actually really good. Bass Shaman covers Cyrax a lot, so to the point to where like one of his donation sounds is both his donation sounds is Cyrax. One of them is him yelling, and the other one is a call out saying, "Bass Shaman, put this on your stream, you coward ass bitch." It was like okay. He put on his stream as the donation sound.
That's awesome. Bass Shaman is still around.
Yeah, but majority of everything he's done thus far is all like Cyrax is like a 2-week cycle of repeating. Like just when you think it can't get worse, it gets worse. Or he has like a never-ending cycle of constantly falling down every 2 weeks. So there's that.
Actually looked him up. Somebody did a video called Cyrax meets King Cobra JFS.
Yeah, King Cobra has stated straight out that like Cobes has said, "Fuck Cyrax, I'll beat his ass." And I was like, "Fight!"
That's the thing about King Cobra. I actually don't hate him. I just think that he's kind of weird with his food habits, and that's about it.
There's a lot to say about locales. Is above all else, it's hard to remember that they're people just like us. And it goes to the whole entire Joker-esque bullshit. Like maybe like, this is like you're one bad day away from being this dude. I'm like, Well, I'm several bad days and crippling alcohol addiction and a bat to the face from being this dude. So, as long as all those things don't happen in the same time, I should be okay.
And that might happen in New York. I don't know.
That was a joke. I'm not going up there. I can't go up there. Too much going on. Then again, I'm also very biased because I live out in the middle of the freaking, redneckville, so I'm very biased.
I don't live in the city either.
See,
I live in upstate.
That was the biggest thing somebody told me is like, no, New York's not just the city. It's got countryside and all this stuff right here. And I'm like, that I can't believe it. I'm gonna have to see it, but I'm not going up there to see it.
I live in the foothills of the Appalachians.
They reached that high?
Appalachian.
They go that far?
Yeah, they do.
God damn, I need to take a geography course or something. I feel stupid.
Well, I know some things about the Appalachian Mountains that are just like useless trivia.
Like, for me, it's like, hey, if I can't drive to it within like an hour and a half to like 2 hours, I don't know anything about it.
Same.
So that's me. Like, I'm at least I'm a decent drive away from the mountains. I'm doxing myself online. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, trust me. When it comes to people's locations, I tend to drown that out, and I completely forget it.
That doesn't mean anybody else does. I mean, hell, I'm the one that figured out Rogue was pissing in a cup during the Eli stream. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, let's see.
That was a funny stream, though.
Oh God, I regularly listen to that for like I don't know, something about the meltdown is just like inspirational in a way.
Yeah, I'm still wondering how he was able to get Eli to not hear him playing tracks of Eli ranting and saying horrible things to.
Oh, that's actually
that.
very easy to do. Like for like Streamlabs, is what you do is you set up another mixer, and you add in a different audio source, and you can play it through that to where it's played on stream. Like if I mute myself on Discord right now, they could still hear me talking, even though that you can't hear me talking.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I need to learn how to do this stuff.
Yeah, OBX works a little different than Streamlabs. Streamlabs is a dumbed down version, but not by much. There are like more advanced streaming softwares to look into. But I'm a very very bare bones sort of individual. Like it only has to work. It doesn't have to work, like I spent money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. To the questions, I have some more. We got about maybe another 30 minutes or so, depending on how these questions go. So we'll see how the conversation takes us. Okay, let's see here. Has there ever been a subject that you have covered that was a bit too rough, like for you to talk about, or like it was like kind of like painful to go over?
Emotionally, like sad or depressing or angry.
Either or, something like a subject that was challenging for you to cover.
Judith Barcy.
Elaborate.
The Judith Barcy video was really hard for me to cover because Judith Barcy was a child actor who her father, because of how popular she got, he got really jealous. He was abusive towards her. He beat the crap out of his own daughter. And towards the end of her life, she was showing signs of abuse. And one night he just snapped and killed his entire family and then killed himself. And knowing that she was the voice of Ducky from A Land Before Time and the voice of Anna Marie from All Dogs Go to Heaven, and All Dogs Go to Heaven being her last movie that she was in, and how her life actually was, it just hit me really hard because as a child I was abused. I was physically abused. And it just kind of flashed back all those abuse that I suffered too. I can't remember most of my childhood because I blacked it out.
I'm sorry that had to happen.
Sorry
to
that
you.
got dark.
No, it's fine. I mean, these subject matters are. It's healthy to explore it as some sort of like therapy, I guess. Like the more and more I learn about people, the more and more I figure out that everybody is damaged in some form or another, whether it be physically or mentally. Like it's become so apparent that I have come to accept it as the norm, and I actively seek that out of people so I can better understand them. And I don't know if that's the healthiest thing to do. There are professions for that, but I'm not in that field, and I don't know if that's anything I should actually look into.
The only other one that actually got me pissed off when it came to covering it was the Susan Cox Powell thing, because because the dude, the father of the two kids that were killed when he set fire to the house, just because of the language of his involvement, it meant that he could see his kids, if that makes sense. Instead of saying that he was a suspect in a missing persons case, they said he was a person of interest. And because he was listed as a person of interest instead of a suspect, they allowed him to see his kids.
That's fucked up, but
yeah, it made me rage. And of course, when I actually covered Josh Duggar, I got overly angry.
it's good to display emotion in your content, but at the same point in time, it can be a struggle, which actually leads me into my next question with this. Okay, sometimes learning about things of a dark nature can poison someone's soul in a matter of speaking. Do you have any fears that the dark topics that you cover are slowly changing your worldview to a negative one, or is affecting you outside of, like, your professional life to your private life?
It hasn't really affected me because I naturally gravitate towards darker topics as it is. But I also have this mind frame where I've taught myself to look towards the positive instead of the negative. Because of years of emotional and mental issues I've had, I have developed a way of keeping myself from falling way too far into that dark pit and fighting my demons, because I don't want to go back there, because I spent 10 years there. I always look towards the brighter side now. And it takes a while to learn how to do that. It takes years and years and years sometimes. But I've learned that no matter what, I still have a wife who loves me, a pretty damn good life right now, and everything will get better. Everything will end up being okay, if that makes sense.
I have a hard time struggling with that way of thinking everything's going to be okay. I've had to take solace in the fact that sometimes when it comes to the way things turn out is that it could have been better, but the way that it turned out is the way that it had to be. Or there have been things that people could have done, but that wasn't how it was going to go. Situation. It's for some things when it comes outside to the greater world, like a tragedy happening where a child is that you didn't know because you were a child, like the voice actress of Ducky, there's nothing you could have done to change that situation because of the circumstances you find yourself in.
Yeah.
And I guess the only way I can look at it is if I ever find myself, or if you out there ever find yourself in this situation to where you are in the position to you can help and prevent something like that happening, then perhaps you have an obligation to at least help or try to make things better than how you found them. But then
I
again,
just
I'm also
believe
really
that
nosy.
if you... The funny thing is you don't have a nose.
Ah! Where'd it go?
You're just eyes and a mouth.
And hands.
I do appreciate the way how your avatar, your sprite, kind of looks like the dude from Full Metal Alchemist, the little homunculus in a jar.
That was the point, actually. Like the actual concept of this character was a mix between Diz from Kingdom Hearts and Father from Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, I love Full Metal Alchemist.
The idea was to have like two fatherly figures that portray or known to be way smarter than everybody else, but in the day didn't know diddly dick and are the cause of the majority of the problems for everybody.
Yeah.
The only difference is one's like, oh, I wanted everything for myself, and like it was like I was looking for knowledge, and like I fucked everything up, didn't I? That's what Ansem the Wise is. I fucked everything up. This is all my fault, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, kinda. Like, well, damn. Recognizing it, and then afterwards, so perhaps that won't be my fate as a father. I'd have to be more observant. Hence all the eyes. But let's see here. Talked about that one. Okay, so here's one. There was hang on a minute, I got burp. Okay. When you were going over your Columbine video, you had said there was no like cases of them being bullied or anything of that nature. When you were going over everything of it, did you come across their manifesto?
Yes, there was a misunderstanding with that. What I meant to say, and it's on my fault because it's on me, is that were they bullied? Well, it's 50-50. What I meant to say with it is, yes, they were bullied, but at the same time, they bullied other people. And other people bullied other people, but both had a slight popularity. Not fully popular, but were popular enough to get dates. I misspoke, and it was my fault, and I tried to pin a comment saying, this is what I meant. Because I can't go back and change it right now, but maybe someday I'll actually redo it.
Yeah, that stuck in my head for a little bit, mainly because I don't know, or are you familiar with like any works of like Jordan Peterson or anything of that nature?
I am, but I kind of try to stay away from certain types of stuff, and I think Jordan Peterson is one of them.
Yeah, I can understand why and completely. That's where partially the lobsters come from. But did you know lobsters are flammable?
No, I did not.
Apparently, lobsters are flammable. I have completed the worn out joke quota for tonight. Good night, everybody. I'm doing the outro now. No, I'm not. Okay, so the one like the 12 rules for life that he put out, kind of a weird read, but there's one rule that I find that's difficult to do, even if you try it, and it's like rule number 6 is like put your life in perfect order before you criticize the world, and that's a very like straightforward like point of view. And there are things in the Bible that says that. I forget which verse, the name of the verse, but it is it's about minding your own business before you try to tell somebody else how to do theirs. It was having to do with like you're concerned with a piece of dust in your brother's eye, but if you look in your own eye, you have an entire beam of wood in your own eye. So to like best not to throw rocks when you live in a glass house situation.
It's basically the he who has never sinned may cast the first stone type of thing.
Yes, and there that was the idea behind rule number 6, and what he went through was talking about comparison to how people who it basically is a letter to school shooters that the people who may feel inclined to perpetrate these acts, their motivations for doing so was that they had a problem with reality itself, and that they looked at the way the state things are and felt contempt for it, and instead of like attempting to do anything to better it, they thought it best to annihilate everything in existence. And he had talked about part of the manifesto that like one of the lines was like if you remember your history with the Nazis, they had a simple solution. Like the final solution was to kill all the Jews, and the people of Columbine had two dudes had said it's like if you haven't figured it out yet, I say kill mankind. They were very driven to annihilate all form of life when they did this as an act of like destruction.
And I think it's in one of their movies, their home movies that they did leading up to it. And I can't remember if it is from the home movies or from the manifesto or somewhere. They actually stated at one point, and this is the reason why I put the whole entire, they wanted to have a bigger body count than Timothy McVeigh. They actually stated that in one of those. I can't remember right now because it has been a while. The problem I have with my topics that I've talked about, as soon as I get done, after a while, they just kind of, go to the back of the mind, and I literally have a hard time thinking about it because I'm on to the next topic.
Yeah, you have that week by week grind set to where you can't afford to dwell in the past situation, or else you'll fall behind.
Yeah.
So it's always behind you. It's never in front of you. If you look back, you'll lose time on going forward.
Pretty much, and I know I seen some things on that. I just cannot remember where I saw it. But I know that other people who have discussed the myths of Columbine actually pointed it out too, that they actually wanted to perpetrate a bombing and not a school shooting.
It's definitely a strange bit they went into in like 12 Rules of Life. He went over the play Faust as well. The part when Mephisto, I think it was Mephisto, when he had talked about that he was the spirit that negates. It is better that all things never begun. So he was the force of destruction that would obliterate everything. There was no point in anything existing, so why even continue it? And the whole entire thing works with like trying to not see things in that manner because it leads to people doing demonstrous things. Which
I know I've seen Faust, but I can't remember. My brain hurts right now.
It's it. The topics for his interviews are all over the place sometimes.
Well, there's a lot to think about.
Which, going back to the idea of maybe it's going to the idea of sorry, that's my train of thought. Like the Joker concept of just one bad day could like turn someone into him, and that idea, I feel like, especially since we touched on that, everybody's carrying around some sort of form of abuse. That there is definitely a seed within everyone to do great harm. And it can be a struggle for some people to try to see the good in things in order to, let goodness prevail and like perpetrate through the hard times. And especially with this next question, as I named it the Circle of Violence. Now, Timothy McVeigh said that he was motivated to do his actions against the government due to what they did at Ruby Ridge and then at Waco. And then the shooters of Columbine had said that Timothy McVeigh was their motivation for doing what they did. And it's safe to say that there's probably at least a handful of other shootings that had occurred because of what, the people who perpetrated things in Columbine. I remember when I was, when I worked with my previous jobs, I got a journal and I started cataloging each shooting that the news station would like cover. And I would do research like, who are they? What are they? What did they use? And I always kept looking for the why. But the why always came up blank half the time. It's like, when it came to like the way that the news had worked, the why was always missing. And they said, we'll come back to it once we have more. But there's, unless you stay on top of it, you won't find it for yourself. You have to go looking for a motivation for these like demonstrous acts. And one thing I hate to say it, but it had become such an occurrence, like happening so often, that eventually I had to give it up because I was just, at that point in time, it just became less of like writing down the stuff and more lines just like keeping numbers. And as it kept going on, some people found motivation, some people didn't have motivation, some people said it was bullying, some people said it was like, a spousal dispute. But it all seems like it could be perpetrated in a big circle. Like, there's a never-ending circle of like violence perpetrated towards people who don't deserve it. And it may sound like a little bit of a rambling, but when I talk about this, the question I have is, do you think there's a way to stop this kind of thing?
Not in a way that everyone will agree with. There are many ways that we could stop the cycle of violence. But there's going to be people that disagree and people that agree. I know I'm sounding like a politician right now. But the only way that I can think to stop violence is education, better mental health, better mental health therapy and stuff like that. Make sure people get the mental help they need. Looking at the red flags and attempting to find a way, and this is the more controversial statement that I've ever made, because before I say it, I'm going to say, when it comes to a lot of things in life, my opinion is, as long as you're not hurting anyone, I don't care how you live your life. That goes for everything. But we need to find a way to stop the debate when it comes to guns and come up with a plan that works for both sides. If that makes sense.
No, I'm very much of the same mindset. Like, I'm a big like guy when it comes to guns. It's in my family culture. Like, I'm pretty sure I came out feet first knowing how to fire a gun. Weirdly enough. But I'm not saying that there definitely has to be something done about it. And the worst thing I have to say is I think it has to be a system of trial and error. But in order to actually get that done, you need to have people who are willing to like admit when something didn't work and then try something else.
Yeah, and the thing is, one thing I hear when people talk about gun laws is it's not going to stop shooting. That's not the point of laws. The laws are there to make sure it doesn't happen all the time, if that makes sense. There's no law on the book that, like, when it comes to drugs, is there drugs out there? Yeah. Is there laws in the books about drugs? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But why do
it's
we not?
it's all about the will of the person to break that rule. I mean, if people have already become brave enough to like not fear the police at all in some places or things of that nature, then making more rules isn't going to help if the consequences for the actions aren't, you know, there. But then it turns into like what kind of circumstances create the people that are like this, and how could you better these places in order to change that mindset. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, transparent. I think the answer is some form of faith-based system that it can be intertwined with someone's life to actually drive them towards a positive purpose. Because I'm a religious person to a certain degree, and I've seen it work wonders for people who have had terrible things and have done terrible things to a certain extent. But I know that's not going to work for everybody.
Yeah, because it would kind of go against the constitutional amendment about freedom of religion.
Correct.
But I know that a lot of shootings happen because of mental health problems, and that's why I said we need a better mental health system put in place. I'm not saying, hey, people who like collect guns to ad nauseum deserve to go to a mental health institute because there's a red flag there, because that is sometimes a red flag. Not all the time, but you got people who think way too black and white about subjects. It's not, there is no such thing as black and white. It's a gray area. Everything is a gray area. There's ways of compromising that works for both sides, and that's what we kind of need, is to open a dialogue instead of fighting about it.
Maybe the answer could be more achieved towards having a larger sense of community. Like I know my sheriff, like, you know, in my county, he served in Desert Storm with my father situation, and there's that. Like, of course, I'm like small town USA. Not everyone could be like that. But if people had more of a sense of community with their neighbor, and that extended out to like if you see something, say something. Like with legitimate concern for your fellow man, maybe that might be the answer. But then again, the dark side of me is saying is like, but you want to put faith in that people will do the correct thing. And it's like, come on, that's out of the realm of possibility that people will do the right thing when given the choice of not doing anything.
I don't know what the right answer would be. I mean, I did give examples, and I think they would work for a baseline for things, but I'm probably the last person to even think of what a good policy would be to help stop the spread of violence, because it's definitely not a red state, blue state thing. It's not a gun owner or anti-gun owner thing. It's an American thing. It's a world thing. It needs to be addressed by people who are willing to sit down and talk about it, if that makes sense.
No. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's that I'm not sure. Like this turned to a big political thing to a certain degree, but I'm not entirely sure we're ever going to have the correct people to in order to make these decisions.
Maybe one day, but I'm not a very political person. I try to stay away from politics as much as possible.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. It's done nothing but cause problems in the spheres that I walk around in, mainly because people can't either A, take criticism, take it on the chin, or at least have a valid argument other than no, that's stupid. But that's just people on the internet for you.
I will give you the wisest words my mother ever told me. At the dinner table and life, there are three things you don't talk about: politics, religion, and who you're fucking.
That's like all I talk about at the dinner table, though. Yeah, it was like it's funny. Like, it's like having a conversation, like my son sitting next to me, and all that shit. And it's like, well, that part's obvious. And then you get into the part of religion that we're saying grace before dinner, and it's only a matter of time before crazy Uncle William or whatever says, "How about that Biden, man? How about that Biden?" I'm like, and it's like, well, there goes the third one. Like,
yeah, my family tends to be kind of similar, except for the politics thing. They'll just sprout off onto different freaking subjects, and I just sit there and go, I'm just gonna go find the Nerf guns and shoot people.
I don't know. I probably would do something like like that whole entire do you know lobsters are flammable thing? Just in the middle of when we're having that conversation, just bring that up and just let them ponder that for 5 minutes, because it's one of those things that sticks in the back of your head. Like, how is a creature that spends its entire life and its death in water flammable?
It's still kind of funny.
Yeah, it's
something
crazy.
I didn't know.
I mean, apparently, I haven't found evidence other than a truck caught fire that was carrying lobsters, and it started acting like it had gasoline in the back of it. The flames spurting out of the freaking water. I'm like, wait, what?
Maybe we should liquefy lobsters and use them as fuel.
Well, we have a joke about that too. And the Rift Tracks thing we did the other night. And we talked about cramming lobsters in fuel tanks as a fuel source.
It is so going to be on our ass for this joke.
I doubt it. But we'll find. I don't know what's going to happen to the lobsters, but that's beside the point. We're gonna start wrapping up this last question here that I have right here, because we've gone on for, I don't know how long we've gone off for. About an hour and 30 minutes. That's pretty good point here. And here's the last point right here. It's you have your own community with fans of your content. You have a few other people that you work with on subjects and projects. It's would you mind sharing some information on that? And we talked about that a little at the beginning. So if you want to elaborate a little more on what you got going on, and if you want to shout anybody out, now would probably be a time to do it. It's more of a open-ended question.
Well, I normally collab with Madam Hellfire, especially on Halls of Horror, which we do once a month, every second week of the month. Which is most of the reason why I only do 3 videos a month, because else I'm going to overdo it. We started, can't remember exactly. I think the first time we collabed was October of 2021. And if she's still in the chat, she probably can confirm this. It was for that Halloween. I decided to go with paranormal subjects. Every Halloween, I choose a theme and decide to just do videos on that. This year is going to be aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah, and it's only going to be 3 videos for now, at least. We did a video where I talked about vampires, she talked about werewolves.
Women only want a handful of things, and vampires and werewolves are 2 of the things.
Yeah. Then we did Dumb Criminal Files together, but I stopped doing that because YouTube was being a pain in the ass, and it just kind of made me just go, I just need to get away from the stress because of YouTube. I kept getting copyright struck for them. So I just like, screw it. I'm gonna do something else. And then I did her Repo the Genetic Opera review, where she had a bunch of people collabing. And then we just started doing Halls of Horror together. We did one on just introducing me, and then the second one was on the Sally House. And I think the next one's going to be the Ripper Crew.
Mm-hmm.
But which is another Satanic Panic thing, because I can never get away from the Satanic Panic.
No, forever. As long as you live, that right there is going to follow you forever, because there's no lack of content when it comes to it.
No, there's not. But as for what I have coming up, I'm doing, because everybody wanted me to cover a serial killer. I picked a modern one, a guy named Sean Great, who got caught because his kidnapped victim, who he was sleeping next to, was able to free herself and call 911. And then he got caught, and in the house that he didn't even own or rent, there were 2 bodies found. Then he decided to confess to 3 other murders. So that's next week, and
the jig was up. He gave up.
Pretty much, and he also was an abusive asshole to women, and so I'm telling people I know that have had abuse in their past to just kind of skip this one because I don't want to trigger them. Yeah. I just released a tragedy in Binghamton, which was a mass shooting that happened that nobody remembers, even though 13 people died. And it was done by an immigrant named Jiverly Wong from Vietnam. He was a naturalized citizen. His motivations he actually sent to a Syracuse news channel, where he basically stated that he could not live his poor life, and before he ends it, he's going to take a couple people with him. So he walked into this American Civic Center and shot up a classroom full of immigrants learning English.
It's that darkness that I was talking about earlier. It's there in everybody, and if you don't have the strength to overcome it, it could devour you.
Yeah, and the last thing that I do have coming up is the collab that I have coming up is going to be for some interesting mysteries. There is a ongoing treasure hunt that is in the form of a book. There's poems in the book, and there's a picture. You have to decode the poem and the picture, and it'll give you a location to a cask. Inside that cask is a key. That key leads to a office building in New York City, where the person will unlock it and give you a gemstone worth $1,000. 3 of the casks have only been found, and it's been 40 years. So I have Trivial Theater, who is another YouTuber who I follow. She does mostly movies and stuff. Madam Hellfire, and my artist Cat reading the poems. And but before that, I have the Innocence Project, Kids for Cash, where it was this whole entire thing where judges were sending kids to prison and juvenile detention centers because they were getting kickbacks.
That's not cool.
Yeah, they ruined these freaking kids' life.
That's... I am at a loss for words. That's rare. That's rare for me, a loss for words. I'm just... That does not make me feel good about anything. And I don't know how to respond to it other than just genuine disgust.
It is disgusting, and I wanted to cover it because I wanted to make more people aware that this happened. And the point of my channel, like I said, is to go for victims of crime. Well, being innocent and being thrown in jail, you're a victim, in my opinion. So I wanted to show both sides of law enforcement and crime.
Definitely look forward to that. Now, I've been watching your content since I found you about I want to say. I think I found your content after Rogue disappeared.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Rogue Circumstance. I made a decision that I've told people about this because I have been asked to cover the Rogue Circumstances. I'm not going to actually say what those circumstances are, out of respect. I told them no because I have a lot of respect for Rogue, and I don't want to go prying into his personal life.
Yeah, I can talk to you about that later. Probably not, but there's probably nothing said that we don't already know. The situation,
yeah,
like between it's like this: if you know, you know, and that's good enough. But don't just. And I don't go.
Sorry
don't
for bringing it up.
Don't go having a fight on Twitter with a guy that's literally the embodiment of a douchebag.
Yeah. But I'm sorry I haven't brought that up now.
Yeah, that's it. It's fine. Shit happened. It made for good television, but that doesn't mean that's right.
No.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. But Knox, I want to thank you for coming on. You've been a wonderful guest.
Well, thank you for having me on.
And thank you for your patience and willingness to actually work with me through this hectic last few months to get to here. I mean, I'm sorry it wasn't as fun as we had hoped, but it's here. It's done. And I hope you walk away with something less than me taking things from you.
I had fun.
Well, in the end, I guess that's all that matters. Is there anything else we need to talk about, or you want to say before I hit the switch?
I think that's. Yeah, I don't have anything really.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and anyone who watches this after it's uploaded. I hope you're blessed wherever you are, and try not to let the darkness eat you. Just find something that you can anchor your life to, whether it be a hobby, a friend, a worthy cause, and just look like Knox said, just look for the positive in life and be somebody's reason for seeing something positive, I guess. It's not as inspirational as I'd hope, but it gets the point across. Y'all have a good night now.